So I think that people look at men the same way, and that's what I'm saying about not listening to what we have to say because they view the world from the 1% that is constantly displayed. Y'all got everything. Y'all get to do everything. How come uh you get to walk around with your shirt off, but I can't walk around with my cakes out at the Usher
Oh
concert?
my
And you
gosh.
You know what
can.
I'm saying? So I'm just
And you can.
it's just
Please walk around. with the cakes out.
And this Yo, welcome to the cave with Mel, Troy, and Lex. The podcast where men can have a safe space. We on all platforms. You need to tune in, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Welcome to Melody, the podcast where men can have a safe space. Welcome to Melody. Welcome to the cave with Mel, Troy, and Lex.
yeah.
Well, actually, yeah.
That's my community.
Yeah.
That's my community. People so crazy, bro. In the comments talking about, well, what about Asians and what about whites and not just black people do this? I'm like, hey, that may be true, but I'm black. And I've been black for almost 40 years. So what I can talk about is black. I can't talk about what whites got going on, what Asians got going on, what Hispanics and Latino X and them is doing. All I can talk about is the black perspective. I think I've been black long enough to be licensed to talk about it.
Well, the thing is, like I tell people all the time, you can have the delusion of inclusion. I'm not talking, like you said, I'm not talking about
Ooh,
every
the delusion
population. I'm
of-
not talking about, I'm talking about my lived experience, and I can only speak to that as a African American man. Yes, I can be an advocate or ally to other identities, but for my identity, I speak from lived experience.
Facts.
So
Yeah, when George Floyd's tragic death happened, was it 2020? And the whole world was in uproar. There were some allies. There were some white allies reaching out to me, talking about, "Hey Troy, what can I do to learn more about the culture? Are there any books and stuff like that?" And to one of them, and I was sensitive in the moment, but it's still so true regardless. And I just said, I can't tell you a book about how I live.
right.
This is my lived experience.
Right. Yeah, you can be empathetic towards it,
Yes.
but you will never have
Right.
the same experience.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that ally of wanting to educate themselves just so they can, be a stronger ally. And I really appreciate that. But at the same time, it's just like, I can't, unless you want to walk with me every single day
Mm-hmm.
and you want me to relive all my tragic situations, that's the only way that you're actually going to completely understand how that affects an individual like myself.
Right. And it's a certain lens of ignorance that they have towards it because, again, we have a lived experience that is vastly different from what they experience. And like you said, I can't educate you on something that I have to keep my head on a swivel
Right.
every day about. So, yeah. But anyway, let's get into what we're talking about.
I'm just saying. I be saying that all the time though. What you just said. And this is not why I advocate against it, but this is why I don't believe that we need to be going around living in a state of trying to educate ourselves about other people's communities and experiences. I don't need to educate myself on your community in order to respect that you are part of a
Correct.
community and you
Mhm.
have a certain lifestyle.
Correct.
Like just acknowledge and accept that we have differences and it's
Right.
different for you than it is for me. And you don't need to spend time sitting down with every single person
Mhm.
to hear about their story, hear about their background. They're immersed in it. Take their word for what they say and respect that it's different.
Correct.
Hear what they say and move on. I don't. That's why I don't need to sit around educating white people on blackness and all that. I don't think they just respect that my blackness is not your whiteness. I respect
Mhm.
your whiteness is not my blackness. We
Right.
live in harmony. We move on. We ain't
But
gotta
that can
do all
also
bro.
go to other aspects of identity as well, but we're not going to get back into that.
Come on, bro.
I run
But
5
That is
plays.
something that cannot. That is something that
I run-
cannot be changed.
I run 5 plays anytime. It works.
That is something
It'll
that
work.
cannot be
I run
changed.
5 plays.
But I will say this too, Mel, though, like, we should not have to educate somebody all the time. You're correct. And we have to be aware that people are not aware of our community. And what I will want to do is I want to show patience to those people who don't understand the community, because I will want patience with me if I say something incorrect about someone
Sure.
else's community. You know what I'm saying? So if terminology changes every single day.
All the time.
Every day. And so if I say something that was the right word yesterday, but it's not the right word today, well, please take the time out to educate me. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? I had a family member who was born in the 40s. Says once, she was like, and this girl I saw at the store, she was so pretty, a little Oriental girl. And I was like, hey.
We can't say Oriental.
No.
We can't say Oriental.
No, you can't say Oriental since like 60s or 70s.
What?
Yes, you can say Oriental rug because that's what it is, but you can't.
You can't
For real?
refer
But
to
you
an
can't
identity
refer-
This is not me being condescending. This is a legit we
legit
cannot
thing.
say Oriental.
You cannot say Oriental. You cannot call a people Oriental
Yes. And there's multiple
because it has
types
a
of
negative
Asian.
connotation
For
that
real?
came, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the wars, probably the Vietnam one.
Bruh, there's one of my neighbors. Now I can't even use the word because you just told me I'm not allowed to use it. But I was talking to my spouse the other day because we were talking about 4th of July parties and this and that not
Sure.
too long ago, and they be on the court, they be on the corner, they be jumping. They got a party every weekend. Their
Mhm.
family members and everything, and then they was like, "What's all that noise? What's all that noise outside?" And I was like, "You know, the Oriental family on the corner having a party on the weekend." But I was saying it to
Yeah. Uh-huh.
describe. I didn't know that was an offensive term.
Yes.
So what should I just don't Oreos only. Oreo cookies, but not Oreo.
Right. Yeah.
Toll.
Probably say something like someone of Asian descent,
Right.
Okay.
something like that. Oh, Asian Pacific Islander.
Right.
That's probably a little
Jesus.
bit better. But that ties into my point. You know, you didn't know, so there had to be an educational moment just now. You know what I'm saying? And you're a better person from it. You know what I'm saying? And so very similarly, you know, I know we don't want to educate people, but sometimes we have to.
Right.
Like just for instance, this past weekend, somebody was trying to empathize with me, and they were like, "I want to hear your perspective as a oppressed black man," in which I said,
I didn't mean to-
"Well, hey, real quick, I don't identify as oppressed.
Right.
My people are."
Right.
Because of the oppression of my ancestors, I have a little bit more freedom in my life and stuff like that. So I don't identify as oppressed as my ancestors was. Now, there are some people who still lived an oppressed lifestyle.
Sure.
So I'm not giving you a perspective of an oppressed black man right now, but I can give you a perspective of a black man in society who is stereotyped oftentimes because of my size and my color. Who is also what do police do to black men oftentimes? Profile. I'm profiled on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? So I can give you that perspective. But and so that was an opportunity for me to educate. Do you know how appreciative that person was when I was like, "Hey, bro, that's probably not appropriate." He was like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." And this is from an individual who watches Fox News on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? But doesn't necessarily who watches Fox News, but doesn't. I don't know if you. I guess if you in that, I don't know. Regardless. But he's open to hearing other people's opinions. You know what I'm saying? And so when I was able to talk to him, he was in a whole new world. So I know sometimes we as black people, we don't want to educate, or we in our different communities, we don't want to educate. But if we want to see society be more loving and accepting, we have to take out some times to educate people.
Sure. No, I agree with that.
I ain't gonna argue with you. Not about that.
It's truly about, it's about, like you said, it's about education. Now that you have been educated, what actions are you going to take to be a part of the solution?
And that's it right there.
Yeah.
I can educate now. And I think that's the reason why people get upset.
Yeah.
Because I educate you and then you don't do nothing about it.
Correct.
Or in the case of I educated you, I should expect other people to be educated. Now it's like, hold on, but you didn't change other people. You only changed this one individual right there. So you can't be mad that you educated this one person and then you still turn on the news and people still cutting up a fool somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You just know that your friend that you just educated ain't in that group of people no
Right.
more.
Correct. All right, kick us off,
All right.
man.
Well, what's going on? You know what it is. We back for another edition, another episode of the Melly D's podcast. You know what's going on? It's your boy Melly Mel, aka Melly Badass, aka Meek Mel, aka your favorite truth teller, aka if you don't want to know, don't ask me. What's going on? We back in this thing, man.
And we back. It's your boy T. Roy, aka your neighborhood hope dealer, aka a soldier in the army of the Lord.
Okay.
You hear me? Do you hear me?
Do you hear
We're
me?
marching into the sound of the drums.
Soldier.
In the army, I'm a soldier in the army.
Don't hurt him, T.
Hey, you just got out of prison clapping.
Right, he do.
C cups on the hands.
Hey, it's your boy Dr. Life Coach Lace. We back for another one, aka NBA old boy, aka That's Possible, aka I'm not with them.
Oh.
Okay.
Yo. We
That's
hope
your
y'all.
problem.
We hope y'all appreciated that last conversation that we had because that was really, really good.
It was a good one.
And if you haven't seen it, you got to go check out the episode. Kiki, do you love me?
Check it out.
Kiki, do you love me? Are you riding? Hey,
Let me tell you who got a chokehold on the summertimes. Drake does. Okay, let me tell you that right now.
why you say that?
Because he's got such a chokehold on music right now that I'm listening to AI music of Drake
Gotcha.
just to satisfy me until the next Drake album comes
You
out.
got enough music for you not to have to listen to AI
Very
versions
true.
of.
But I know every single word. Okay, I'm trying to learn something new. Okay.
Okay. No, you're right though. There's generally two artists every summer: Drake, Chris
Breezy,
Brown.
Breezy, yeah.
Chris Brown.
Oh, you know-
Chris Brown also has
You're
a
right.
chokehold.
Drake and Breezy
on the summer.
and Baby is catching up.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah,
Very true.
Baby put himself in a dilemma, kind of similar to the topic we're talking about today. But he
No,
put
I'm not
himself
talking
in.
about that, Baby. I'm talking about Lil Baby.
You know, I still don't see what's so amazing.
Don't
I
do it.
like him.
Don't do it.
I'm not trying to bash him.
Don't do
I'm
it.
not trying to bash. And this is
Don't you do it?
And this is one of the episodes I want to talk about being washed. Okay, because I'm not keeping up with the new trends.
You've been washed, bro.
Okay, you say we or I?
Stonewashed.
You. I'm definitely washed. I own
Okay,
my.
all right.
I own my.
I just want to make sure we in the same wash.
Yeah, yeah.
In the
I
same,
own my
you know,
washes.
in the
Yeah,
same.
I own my washes. When young niggas in the gym calling you OG, you washed.
Hey,
You are. You like. Yeah. I'm not. I can't talk to OG like that. You right. You can't.
That is true. That is true.
not there yet.
You getting there?
He's there. He
I'm
just
not
won't
there
own
yet.
it. He
And
just
there ain't
won't
nobody
own it.
called me OG and
He
Unk
just
and all
won't.
that yet.
I'm gonna
But
tell
you
you-
don't. You aren't in situations where people would call you that.
Yes,
you
and
mean?
I'm gonna tell you why you washed. Because I know for a
How
fact.
the hell you gonna tell me?
You're not.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because I guarantee that if you saw somebody out on your lawn of your house that isn't your family, you're gonna walk to that door and say, "Hey, get off my lawn."
No one.
That's a wash statement.
That's not. That's
That's
not.
a wash statement.
That's not
That's a
about
wash
being
statement.
washed as much as it's about respecting.
See, the thing is, what
My
Mel
problem.
hasn't put together, he's at a different caliber now.
I am.
So once you at a different caliber, that contributes to your wash.
I am. I was honest about
you're
that.
focused on different things, and like you said, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
I can see him now with his robe that he got for Father's Day. Hey you, get off my lawn.
Oh, I'm gonna be in that robe, and I'll be in that robe every morning in my lawn, taking my dog out for a walk.
So what we talking about today, fellas? What we on?
Melvin had a good video that he found up on the internet.
So no, we can get into it. I was on the internet not too long ago, like most people, and there was this clip circulating on TikTok, and where I saw it first, and then it came up again on Twitter and started a big discussion about this trans person who was transitioning from female to male and was basically describing their experience in manhood and how it basically wasn't what they expected it to be, and how they've come to all these realizations about what it actually feels like to be a man in society, and and we're just speaking to the experience, better understanding of things like why the suicide rate is so high, why it's so difficult for men to connect, or how lonely men can feel at times as they navigate through life because they really don't have as many resources or connections as people think we have, as we navigate this process. And I just thought it was a great conversation for us to have, because there is this myth that everything is just so easy for us. Like manhood is easy. Everyone wants to be a man. They feel like they want to, that we're getting to do something that they can't do, not realizing that there are a lot of things that we can't do, that we don't get to benefit from, that we don't have the same advantages to do. And they just don't really understand at times how difficult it can be to live in this skin, you know? So instead of talking about the clip, I was going to have Lace play it so that everyone else can kind of catch up to where we are in the
Nobody
discussion.
told me how lonely being a man is. I had closer friendships with random women I met in the bathroom before I transitioned at clubs because of how open women are than I've had in my 8 years of transitioning. Because women are just so much more vulnerable and deep than men. But to have known, and I think a lot of trans men feel this, is we knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to have people want to hug us. And to have people want to talk to us. And to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. And people are colder. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid. But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men. Because this shit is lonely. And I'm an emotionally mature man. I know how to build friendships, and it is still really, really hard. Try to think about how you can, in your small little community where you feel safe, can reach out to the men in your life and just help them feel maybe seen for a moment. Or do little conversations to help their emotional maturity so that they can reach out to people and have deeper guy friendships.
What's the title of that video?
The title of the video is, let's see here.
That's not the title of it. I think that's just the caption.
Oh.
Yeah, so it it's just a particular caption from this individual. So yeah.
So we're not necessarily talking about the community of.
No, absolutely not.
No.
So we not. I'm making that clear right now before we get into this conversation. I'm not talking about this from the standpoint of the trans community or the transition or anything like that. I'm not focused on that. I'm focusing on the realization that this person came to, that manhood is not easy. And to a certain degree, certain aspects of their lifestyle were easier before they transition. You know, so again, there are a lot of myths around what people perceive our lifestyles to be like, not realizing again how difficult it can be most days to be a male or be a man, because we use words like patriarchal society and all those types of things. So we just believe that because the 1% of a certain group of men are experiencing a certain lifestyle, that it's the same for all of us. And that's not necessarily the case, because we don't have, I'm not going to say we, not all of us have the same lifestyle or advantages as per se a 1% male who has power and control of policy, procedure, financial gain and stuff like that. So largely a lot of the time we spend is, I'm not going to say in struggle, but it is in work, for a better lack of better words, or tilling of the ground, I would say, of trying to navigate space and live in a society that is largely thankless for what you do and provide, because they already think you have all the advantages anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, being a man is very difficult. It's very hard. It's a very thankless job. It's not a thing that a lot of people want to do, as we see a lot of people have quit it because it is so hard. What she's talking about, they are talking about the suicide rates and things like that. A lot of men check out because it is difficult to deal with. It is hard to live and navigate. So I just want to talk about it from that standpoint of just shedding light, being reflective, and just being more so like candid about the male experience, I guess.
Yeah,
is where I'm going with it.
I think, and one of the things I think that makes it tough for men, we've touched on this before, but for me, what makes it tough for me, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it is being a protector and being a provider. Those are two things that stress me out on a regular day basis.
Mm.
And one thing about the provision piece is like you can work towards that, but even that could be very troublesome. That could be very, toiling and overwhelming. But the protection part is something that it's at one point you just have to let loose of control sometimes. And specifically on protection is just like when you're in my vicinity, I feel as though I have a desire to protect like my family, my loved ones, my friends, and things of that nature. But when they go out into the world and they leave from my presence,
Mm.
I have to trust that they'll be safe
Mm-hmm.
and that they got home. That's the reason why we ask people, hey man, when you get home, send me a text.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're concerned about people's safety. We want them to be, safe and stuff like that. So, and it could be overwhelming. It could be overwhelming because you got those things on your mind.
I dig that. I think that the excerpt from the video is interesting, primarily because this individual still has a certain level of privilege that we will never be able to experience. I mean, they are a white individual who transitioned from a female to male. Again, I appreciate their desire, their willingness to explore that about their identity and transition. But at the end of the day, although there is an emotional difference, they still have a white male experience, although it's not one that is to be discounted because they will have to navigate barriers, etc. But it's still an experience that we will not have because they are a part of a privileged group that we will never get to explore, have that understanding.
Aside from protection and provision, Troy, I think one of the key things that stood out to me, and one of the I would say the things that is, I don't want to say hard for me as a male, but something that I always push for or believe in, and that's like being heard.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why I'm always so focused on telling the truth and staying 10 toes down and speaking when people don't want you to speak and saying what people don't want you to say and those type of things, because a lot of men tend to be quiet about their life, about their opinions, their thoughts, because they believe that no one cares, that no one's listening, and largely because no one cares and no one listens. And I think that this person had a similar experience before they transitioned, and that's why it was so devastating for them to realize this thing that men for centuries have been saying, that this is what we deal with, this is what lifestyles, but everyone's like, all right, shut up. Suck it up, it's manhood, put a Band-Aid on it, whatever. And then I'm sure that before they transitioned, they heard plenty of other men talk about being lonely or struggling or having trouble connecting, this and that, and probably thought, what is men complaining, men rule the world.
Yeah.
So what? But then it took them being in our shoes for 8 years to realize, like, all right, don't nobody give a damn about men. Like no one cares about men. No one pays attention to them. If they see us on the street, they look at us as aggressors, predators, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And even, to your point about the white male experiences versus the black male experience, which is totally different.
Yeah.
There is still a commonality that exists across ethnicities where people just largely do not care about men in general.
So I will agree with that. And I think too, the other piece that is worth saying is around, yes, this is a social construct of, not valuing men in certain aspects, but a lot of that is self-imposed. Growing up, you fall as a child. What's your pop say? Stop crying. That's an emotion. Crying is an emotion.
Yes.
You reacting to the pain.
Yes.
Stop crying. Men don't cry. So a lot of that stuff is just ingrained in us from how we were developed and raised to understand what manhood is. So if that is how we were taught, it only expands out to how other people other identities view the male experience. So I think it's a both and in some capacities, where it is the worldview, but it's also the internal view of how we've been taught.
Yes. Specifically on the emotion part, like when we were kids, we were told to suppress it. Boys, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Teenagers, like I remember even in high school, hey man, don't you be crying around here because there's wolves around here. You get eaten up,
Yeah.
And then as I am becoming older, I don't know what it is, but I'm becoming more emotional. or a desire to want to express my emotion. And I don't necessarily have an outlet because I've been conditioned for so long to not express it. So I don't even know that I can go to my brother and be like, hey man, I'm going through this and that and the fourth and the other, because what in my mind, what I'm saying is I don't want to tell him about this because he may think less of me as as a man, literally as a man.
Yeah.
But we do go through, and I'm thankful for those outlets that I do have. But and when those outlets, when I use them, I feel bad because I just told you about the emotions I had yesterday. Well, today I got some new emotions.
Sure.
I feel like I'm wearing my brother out now. You know what I'm saying? And I can't even share. And because, okay, so it's difficult to share with our brothers, it's even more difficult to share with the opposite sex. You know, specifically my wife, you know, because I have this mentality that I have to be strong and stuff like that. And I feel as though if I show some sign of weakness, this then makes me incapable of leading my household, you know, and things of that nature too. So what ends up happening is you implode internally and you don't get an opportunity because you don't get an opportunity to release. So it just internally you just build up all this stuff and then you just collapse inside.
So let me ask you a question. Why is it viewed as you showing the same emotions that every human being has? We all have emotions.
Yes.
So why is it coined as weakness? If you were to showcase that.
And I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a matter of, you know, a situation like because it's fresh and it's new, you just automatically categorize it as how you've always seen it. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So until you actually ride a bicycle, you're afraid of riding a bicycle because you fell off once and then you hurt yourself, you know, something like that. But if you get back on it, you realize you can be in control of it. But because I haven't exercised expressing my emotion so much, it's such a fear to get back on and try to do so.
Gotcha.
You know?
So I think twofold, going back to what Lay said, and I'm going to go to what you said about as boys when we're told to, you know, stop crying, close our emotions and this and that. Do you think that our fathers and mothers and things like that, do you think that they really did not want us to express emotion, or do you think that they were trying to prepare us for the world that they knew we had to live in, where people would not largely care about our tears or our emotions or our reactions to things? So do you think it was more of, yes, I understand what you're dealing with, but you can't sit and cry in that because once you get out here in the world, ain't nobody gonna care about those tears that you have, and you're gonna have to do something about it. So do you think that it really came from a place of them just hating or viewing our emotions as weakness, or more so as like preparation for the life that this boy gonna have to live when he gets older?
Well, it could be a bit of both, but I do think that at the core of it, if you cannot express your emotions appropriately, as Troy mentioned, you could implode and do something crazy that's going to be more detrimental to you down the line. So I think we have to be able to explore that in a space where we can figure out what works for us as far as how we showcase emotions, how we share emotions, being emotionally available, those kinds of things, because at the end of the day, it's only detrimental to you in the long run. So I think it's something that we have to make a conscious effort on shifting that narrative holistically.
Yeah. And we need outlets.
Yeah, gotta have appropriate outlets where you can showcase emotions in a space that is considered safe and it won't be weaponized against you. Because a lot of times showcasing emotions can be weaponized as well. So you got to be able to do that in a space where it's accepted.
Yeah, because I was I'm not sure if y'all noticed, but Insecure got moved to Netflix.
Yeah,
it's on Netflix now.
First of all, if I'm reliving.
I already started watching.
Me too. And it was like, man, I forgot how good of a show this is. And I forgot which episode it is in the first season, but one person, Issa's character ran into an old friend of hers. I think it was Issa. Ran into an old friend of hers, and she was like, yeah, girl, what you been up to? It's like, Oh, it was Molly. I'm sorry,
It was
Molly. Yeah,
Talking about
Molly.
her friend who was going to a therapist.
Yes,
Mhm.
and her friend said she was going to a therapist and was like, "Yeah, it's been so freeing, you know, and all this type of stuff." And Molly laughed and was like, she didn't laugh in the face,
She was
but
like,
later
"You
on,
ain't crazy, are you?"
right. So then, so that's another thing
Yeah.
in our community is, you can't even go to a therapist to talk about how you feel because it's only crazy people do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then
Isn't there a difference between a therapist and a counselor?
Well, therapist
think
executes counseling.
yeah, both of them are the same.
Are they the
Yeah.
same? Don't one have more authority than the other? Like a therapist can prescribe medication,
A
but
psychologist.
oh,
Psychologist.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not an
A
LPC.
psychiatrist.
I'm trying to get the terms.
Psychiatrist.
Yeah, because you have a multiple kind. I mean, you go to
Yeah.
PT. That's
Therapists
physical
and counselors.
therapy, so-
Therapists and counselors are the same, and a psychiatrist is
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
All right,
different.
all right.
But yeah, there's that. But here's the crazy part. Crazy part about being crazy. The funny thing is, if you don't go talk to somebody about it inside of yourself, you start to think, "Am I crazy?
Mhm.
Am I crazy?" And then eventually, you potentially could go crazy.
Right.
Half the battles that I go through is just like I see the world as one way, and then I know someone else sees the world as a different way, and I'm like, how come I can't see it as they see it?
Mm.
And so then when I try to go to that person to talk about it and they explain it, I'm like, I don't understand how you can still see it like that and not see it my way.
Mm.
And so then it's just like, am I crazy the way that I and the reason why I bring that up is because every single day through our cell phone, through our TV, through the music we listen to, we are being inundated with different points of view of
Yeah.
how we should view life. And then when you take it in and you were like, when you value someone that gives you a new way of looking at something and you don't agree with it, you're like, why am I on the outside? And no one wants to be on the outside.
Hmm.
No
That's
one,
an
no one,
interesting take.
no one likes to be on the outside of, in the sense of, if you want to be countercultural because that's who you are, that's what's up. But some
Contrarian.
people don't want to be countercultural. They want to be. It's a form of acceptance. I want to be accepted.
Mhm.
I want to be accepted not only in amongst people, but like also in thought. And so when my thought is not also accepted, it's just like internally I'm like, dang, I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
And it's a feeling of isolation.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that men feel like they deal with sometimes is isolation.
Yeah, and a lot of that I would say is definitely perception and perspective, because I actually enjoy having a different thought process
Sure.
than other people, and it's not about. I understand the acceptance from feeling like you're a part of, but also I can accept you for your diversity of thought.
Right.
So I think it depends on how it is coined and how you internalize that in a lot of ways as well. Because again, if we all thought the same, then this shit would be just as lame as Kiki's boyfriend getting mad at her for having her cheeks out. You know what I'm saying? That's hella lame. So no, I appreciate the diversity of thought and the difference.
And in that, I do understand, and you got to mind you, like, yes, I'm 39 years old, but 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old Troy still lives with this 39-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
I dig it.
And, back in middle school, it was all about, if you was outside of the in crowd,
Yeah.
it was torture.
Mhm.
It was torture.
Mhm.
So, but as I've grown older, I've gotten to a point of realizing, and I'm sorry, Mel, if I'm monopolizing the point.
Go where you going.
I'm sorry that when I've gotten older, I've come to realize that I can't necessarily, I'm not gonna fit in everyone's in crowd. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And case in point, the last one of the times we recorded, I got roasted for the first 15 minutes because I looked like a camp counselor. You know what I'm saying? Because of the the dad
Shorts
shorts.
was wide as hell though.
And you know what? I wore them same shorts today.
As you should.
and I realized that's just not y'all's cup of tea. But for me, it works.
Right. That's all that matters.
For me, it works.
Yeah.
Mel wore some shoes that I did not particularly like, but I was like, you know what, Mel? And I kind of
And them joints fire too.
I don't think they are, but at the same time, I'm glad you feel comfortable in doing that. And I actually feel bad because I came out my mouth because it's like, yo, I might have said something that might have isolated my brother. I know you don't care. I know you don't care. I know you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But my idea is not to try to make you
I
feel
got you.
isolated. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The whole matter.
I got you.
That's the wholesomeness coming out.
It is. Ain't nothing wrong with being wholesome.
None at all.
I'm not. No
I-
one said
okay,
it
so
wasn't.
Troy, going back, you said that men have an issue with sharing, and a lot of people say that, and I think that there's levels to sharing, and I think that it leans more towards what Lace was saying. I don't think that we as men have an issue sharing. I think that when we get amongst ourselves and it's just the fellas and then we share a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
we just talk. We openly talk. Things start to come out. We feel like we in a safe space. We just start sharing our real thoughts, feelings, and emotions, etc. Regardless of how our boys fries up. Like we talk about somebody that we like, and somebody be like, "Man, you know she a hoe. You know she be out here."
Fine with me. I'm
but
pro
we still
hoe.
talk. You know what I'm saying? We
Fine
still talk
with
about
me.
it anyway, or we talk about a certain situation. He be like, "You need to stop being so emotional," or something like
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
feel like we do share. I feel like the area where we struggle with sharing is with the opposite sex. To what you brought up because of the weaponization of it. Because if I share something with y'all, unless it's like a joking manner or something, whatever, you're not gonna turn that information on me maliciously later
Mhm.
on. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna use it as a weapon against me.
Maybe.
What? Give me an example. 'Cause we talking about Troy. Mostly
Well,
you're not gonna use it.
You shared, where you do your shopping.
So that was joking though. Everyone was joking, calling each other wash, this and that. It wasn't like your intent was to hurt me
you.
or
Yeah, yeah.
or
Mhm.
stab me with this information because we're in a situation now and I don't like what you're doing, so I'm gonna use it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, as a weapon against you. And I think that's the area of struggle with men sharing and not, you know what I'm saying, not being heard. And I think that, like I said, that's one of my biggest things about not being heard or someone misinterpreting what I'm saying because they're not actually listening to what
Right.
I'm saying.
Mhm.
It's like those are, I think, the things that struggle with me because when I'm with the guys and I talk and this and I obviously I have a podcast, so it's funny that I don't talk a lot. Like when I'm off the podcast, I don't talk a lot. But when I'm on, I talk for, entertainment, the camera, this and that. But so I get offended if I'm talking and I feel like no one's listening or I feel like they're not interpreting properly what I'm saying
Mhm.
because I'm like, I'm not someone who talks a lot anyway. So the fact that I am talking means that I believe that what I'm saying is important. So you're not like, what?
Now, my question for that.
Why are you giggling?
But it's just a funny train of thought. It's a funny train of thought.
Well, and
I'll let Troy speak
the
first.
reason, and I think the reason why he laughed is because of this. It's like, oh, okay, for that case, you will get passionate if someone gives you some pushback, right?
What do you mean by passionate?
You will you stand 10 toes down. Basically, that's what I'm saying. You stand 10 toes down on what you think. You're hard to be
Oh
persuaded.
yeah,
and
yeah,
things of
yeah,
that nature.
yeah.
So when I just want to, so I want to clarify because, like, when you share with us, don't think that we don't understand, or in the moments where you feel like cats don't understand you, like specifically with us, we hear you. We may not have the same point of view.
Yeah, you don't have to agree.
Oh, okay.
You don't. No, I don't
So
expect
what-
no one to agree. I'm talking about misinterpreting what I'm
What
saying.
he's saying,
Oh,
right?
Like
okay,
you
okay,
can,
gotcha.
if you interpret properly what I'm saying and you disagree, I'm fine with that.
Okay, gotcha.
Disagree. I don't care if you disagree. I like to debate anyway. When y'all see me, I get passionate. I don't mind arguing a little bit about something.
Mhm.
So if you disagree, that's fine. I just don't want you saying something that I didn't say
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
hearing something that I
Right.
didn't present
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So not necessarily that bothers me, but not as much as if I am taking time to talk and then I feel like you're not listening.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
Or are you like, I'll use my wife as a case study. A lot of times she wants me to talk with her, interact, and share my thoughts and feelings about certain things so that she can feel connected to me in a way. But if I start talking and then she gets on her phone or she starts scrolling something or she if she multitasks or she starts talking to the kids or something while I'm talking, she feels like she's listening. But to me, you ain't listening.
You're not
Mhm.
listening.
You're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
listening. You're not engaged in the conversation. So then I'm like, this conversation's over with.
Mhm.
In my head, I'm like, this conversation's over with because you're not even listening to what I'm saying. So why am I wasting my breath? Now I'm gonna have to backtrack what I just said.
And restate
So
it, yeah.
all right, it's over with. So then I literally just, and I know it bothers her. I literally just like, it's cool, it's whatever. Conversation over with. And I do that to a lot of people in general, just because. And I don't know if it's a bad thought, but because I don't talk a lot, when I do talk,
I want your attention. Yeah.
I believe it to be important because I'm choosing to open my mouth about it. So then I
Mhm.
want people to listen and be engaged in what the hell I'm saying.
And that's why I chuckled, because I think that the expectancy, because you don't talk much, and to expect somebody to just be like,
I knew that. See,
to be like,
I know
okay,
Blaze, right? See,
this nigga talking, so let me.
yeah, exactly. And see, that's what I said. I don't know if it's a bad thought or not, but it's just like for real. Like if you know that I'm getting outside myself,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to know that what I'm talking about isn't. I'm not talking about a stranger.
Right.
Like we someone that I'm in commune with. So like if you could see that I'm getting outside myself,
Mm-hmm.
then it must be important. So then to not listen or not, hear what I'm saying or whatever, that's what offends me.
Right.
about
Well,
it.
to not necessarily, they could be listening. It's just the fact how they are listening as well that irritates you, because you just said that they are multitasking, not paying attention in the way that you think that they should, that it pisses you off.
I ain't saying you got to sit like with your. I ain't saying you got
He's
to.
talking.
I ain't saying you got to. I'm not saying you got to do all that, but like legit, if we having a conversation and I do it to people, I don't necessarily have to be looking at you to hear,
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about, but I'm engaging in the conversation. But if you talking to me, say you talking to me about something, and then in the middle of what you talking about, I start talking to Troy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not listening.
Yeah.
You
Right,
know
right,
I'm not
yeah,
listening.
yeah.
Or I pick up my phone, I start scrolling, I'm like, all right, yep, You gonna be like, this nigga's not listening.
I got you.
So then that's when I'm like, all right, this conversation's over with.
Yeah,
Like it's whatever. So I think that's the being heard part, and maybe that's why I advocate so much for men continuing to speak no matter what,
Mhm.
whether they feel like someone's listening.
Do you
or
think
not.
that's a dogmatic approach, though, to be like the conversation's over just because somebody may have done X, Y, Z to make you think they weren't listening? Do you think that's pretty dogmatic?
Google Dogmatic? Troy Google Dogmatic. But while Troy Googling Dogmatic,
Dogmatic. The definition is to incline to lay down principles as incontrovertibly true.
So essentially, you think they're not listening, so I'm just going to dead the conversation.
yeah,
Like, do you think that's a
no.
okay?
The other similar words are opinionated, assertive, imperative.
Okay, yes, I'm all those things. That
Right.
You just-
Y'all niggas need a fucking dictionary.
but that's why I tell them to look it up. Definitions are important. Context is key. So I need to know what you ask me before I say yes or no. So do I think it's a dogmatic approach? If I feel like it takes two people to have a conversation, and I feel like I'm overworking in the process, you not meeting me equally in the conversation, do I think it's dogmatic for me to be like, all right, this conversation is dead? I don't think so.
Got you. Okay.
I mean, how can I?
No,
Who
I'm
would
not
want to
saying-
keep
I'm
talking?
just-
Who
I'm
would
just-
want to
I'm
keep
just
talking to
asking.
someone if they feel like they're not listening
I
or
dig it.
engaging in the
No, I
conversation?
agree.
You know, I'm trying to be more patient with people, and in a sense of, if I do feel like that, like I'm not being paid attention to, I'll just be like, hey, if I can, let me just get a few more minutes of your time, and you can go do whatever you can. Can you put down your phone? Something like that. I'm trying to get. I'm working up that bravery to be like that more often than none, to just abort mission, of conversation, and then I feel some type of way, you know what I'm saying? Because that's one thing that I'm learning too. I don't always have to bear the burden of the feelings in the time being. You know what I'm saying? So now I feel disrespected, right? You showing me disrespect. Hey, real quick, I just want to let you know, we're not paying attention to each other. I want to get your attention for a little bit. Okay, so you're gonna feel a little bit what I'm feeling. That's a passive aggressive way of saying, you disrespecting me. Give me your attention. So that's what I'm trying to do now more, because I'm with you. I feel as though what I have to say is important. I try not to force my opinions on other people. I state my opinion, but I try not to force my opinion on others. But when I'm sharing, I want to be heard, because I'm going to give you the same amount of attention too.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's not about the same amount of attention. You asking me for this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you want me to share. You want me to engage you in this way or whatever. And then when I'm doing what you asked me, now you're not paying attention. This conversation's over with. Because now You wasting my time. I'm wasting my words. What's that movie that Eddie Murphy was in? We had a certain amount of
Oh,
words and the
yeah,
leaves
yeah.
fall
A
off. the
1,000
tree.
words or something like that.
There was every time he talked,
Yeah,
a leaf
yeah.
fall. That's me.
Mhm.
I got enough leaves on the tree for the words I got. I got to preserve them. If you ain't gonna listen to what I'm talking about, then this conversation's over with.
Nah, I feel it.
So is
feel
that a wrong thought, Lace, for me to?
Oh no, I'm not.
expect,
Yeah,
like-
I was just curious. I'm not saying that it's wrong.
I know that's
but
why you was giggling earlier. Troy
It
didn't
was.
know. I knew
That-
why
that
you
is-
was giggling.
Yeah, it is why, because you was like, you want my full attention because I don't talk much. So it's the expectation of or how you want to engage in that kind of conversation.
I knew that's why he giggled, but I wanted to give you my attention.
Right. My bad for laughing. I don't want the conversation to end because I chuckled. My
No,
bad.
see,
My bad.
that's what I'm saying. I ain't like that. So I just the myths it's just the myths around manhood. Like, we don't share. Like, that's not true. We sharing right now. We
You
share
gotta hear
one-
it,
We
though.
share
You
once a
gotta-
week. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, listening, hearing, and being involved. The issue is not that men don't share; is that people don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
People don't listen to the that we say, stuff that we say. I've been trying not to cuss.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing too. You mentioned listening and hearing. They're two different things. So you can listen and not hear, and vice versa. So you can hear without listening as well. So I think it goes both ways. But that's true. That's real.
And we have seen that people do not care to listen to anything based
Fact.
upon a lot of the posts that we've been making on social media.
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
Cats do not listen to they come in there with their presuppositions of what they already think, and they project it upon us, and it's like, hey, we just here to share how we feel.
I
You
wasn't
know
even
what I'm
saying that.
Okay.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying, like,
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't even saying that. Like,
I'm not even saying what you're trying to
what
say.
you even
Right,
saying,
right,
what you
right.
insinuating that I'm saying. I'm
But
not
it's
even
easy
saying.
to be biased and draw a preconceived notion because that's what we do. We do that with everything.
Because it's easy.
Yeah,
It's
easy. It
easy
don't
for me-
require no work.
It don't require no work, no brain function, no nothing. I can automatically just present to you my opinion because I've already written it out on my heart, on my mind. So I just give it to you without me having to make any edits based upon what you may have said. I just want to give you what I already got.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah. But all in all, I do believe manhood does have difficulties.
Absolutely.
And-
But yeah.
And it's on us as men to work our way through it. And I'm not trying to say just be a man. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is the avenues in which we are afraid to go down, we might have to journey.
You got
down
to.
those
Yeah,
avenues.
you got to take the journey.
We gonna have to try. We might have to talk to somebody that's outside of our family about some issues that are going on
Yeah.
to give us a diversity of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Or we may have to, find somebody who's non-biased, such as a counselor or something like that, to work through things, to deal with our emotions and some things that might have happened in the past that we don't even realize is still affecting us to this day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you look at you mentioned Insecure and Molly's character, she had the most going on. She the one who needed a motherfucking
She
counselor.
needed
She
one.
did.
You know what I'm saying? But again, it goes back to perspective and how we view things from a cultural lens, as well as what we want to do internally to make ourselves better. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Definitely goes both ways. Did you share how you thought manhood is most difficult for you personally?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
You know what? And you just pissed me off. Troy just pissed me off.
Oh, because you
When he
shared,
goes
didn't
back
listen.
and
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
when he
yeah.
goes back and listens to this,
Case study.
this
I
is
just-
exactly
no,
what I'm. This
listen,
is live.
Listen.
This is a live example
No.
of what I'm talking about.
No.
right now.
Listen
I'm not
to
really
me.
pissed off, Troy.
Listen
I'm
to
just
me.
saying.
But listen to me. I'm reflecting I'm reflecting back on me. I
Mhm.
talked a lot.
Mhm.
And I just want to make sure that everyone else
I
had
got
that
you.
opportunity.
You were able to
share.
capture what he was saying. You
Yeah.
just want to make
It's
sure.
cool.
And I just
But
want to
you
make
th-
sure.
I thank you for.
But it does go back to how one can perceive what you did, and you were actually trying to be intentional and inclusive. So it's
You
like
were
I said,
trying to be intentional and inclusive.
it goes both ways. It goes
I
both
get what
ways.
we're trying to do.
I
But
got.
the
I run
fact
5
that you
plays,
did-
y'all. I run
But
5
the
plays.
fact that you did not hear me present my issues.
No.
is another- I'm joking.
It's not that. It's that
Look,
I thought that
look.
you were more so commenting on the things that I was saying, and my perspective was more so the focus of conversation. Now I did hear you when you said you weren't heard and stuff like that, but I just want to make sure
I'm not saying that
all
I'm
your
not
bases were
heard.
covered.
I'm not saying that I'm not personally heard. I was saying that I think that that's been one of the biggest struggles for me in manhood about men not being heard, like no one listening to them when they
Mhm.
speak. I think that is, for lack of better words, problematic. But no one cares about it because no one largely cares about men and what they think because they're so worried about the advantages that they think we already have. And when you believe that someone already has a certain number of advantages, you don't want to hear them talk about struggle and what they got going on.
Mhm.
You start to think like, just like black people do with white people. They start complaining to us. We like, you white. We don't want to hear that.
Mhm. We
You
don't
got
wanna
you
hear
got
it.
all the advantages, so we don't even listen to
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they
yeah,
say
yeah.
largely because we feel like they already have
Yeah.
everything they
Mhm.
need already. So why are you complaining to me about someone who believes himself to be lacking in certain areas or whatever? So I think that people look at men the same way, and that's what I'm saying about not listening to what we have to say because they view the world from the 1% that is constantly displayed. Y'all got everything. Y'all get to do everything. How come you get to walk around with your shirt off, but I can't walk around with my cakes out at the Usher
Oh
concert?
my
And you
god!
can.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just
And you can.
it's just
Please walk around.
And this is that perspective is exactly why
Exactly.
I do not want you to walk around with your cakes out.
Exactly. Exactly.
not-
Do it because you can. Do it because you
I'm
can.
just saying. So that was probably the biggest. I say the biggest challenge of navigating other outside of just constantly being tired because you're always trying to figure out how to get it done, like how to get everything done, like to what you was talking about earlier about protection and provision, like whether we want to acknowledge it or not, or however people feel about it. Men have a large responsibility of making sure that everyone around them is good, and depending on the situations that you're in, you could be being split in multiple ways. Like we are, more than one thing. They love to talk about how a mother's job is never done or a woman's job is never done. But look at the job that we have. My job is making sure that you're able to do your job.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like making sure you're in a position to be able to do and give and be and all those things. And like look at the multifacets of just me, the person. You know what I'm saying? I'm somebody's husband. I'm somebody's daddy. I'm somebody's son. I'm somebody's grandson, somebody's nephew, somebody's cousin, somebody's brother. I'm somebody's coach on the basketball team. I'm somebody's podcast, host. I'm somebody's counselor, confidant. Like that's just 10 things that I'm expected to be on a daily basis, and I'm always expected to have energy to do and give and manage all of those things that's around me, but no one ever focuses on that. No one ever really takes the time to acknowledge those things. It's kind of just like we always say, it is what it is. Suck it up, be a man, do your thing, or whatever. So I think just the exhaustion of always trying to make sure that everyone around you is good, is different. And I guess like even me being the oldest, there's a certain burden that comes with being the oldest child in the family, because you're largely expected to be the example for your siblings. You're largely expected to help rear them in some kind of way because your parents feel like they poured enough energy into you for you to pass on to them and help them bring up the rest of the siblings and things like that. So to a certain degree, your younger siblings start looking to you as another source of provision and care or whatever. So then you have that burden to carry and worry about and those type of things. So it's just, laying down at night and never feeling like the work is finished because there's so much that needs to be done and feeling like there's largely no one to help you with it because we all got our own stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
feel
I
that.
think that outside of not being heard, I think that is literally, I think the thing that's hardest to navigate most. And it's not because you don't want to do it. It's just that you're constantly racking in your brain. How? Like, how can I get it done? How can I
respect
do it?
that.
You know what I'm saying? So I think
and
largely
that
for
part
me.
that you said at the very end, knowing that other people are probably thinking the exact same thing that I'm doing. Why would I want to burden them with?
With what you got going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just that I would say largely the thing. And then outside of that, just understanding, having to really understand that manhood and it's, I know they're going to say everybody experiences this, but manhood is largely just unfair in a sense. You know what I'm saying? There is no fairness in the world of manhood. We don't operate off of fair and unfair. We tend to operate off of outcomes and input, so we don't necessarily try to make things fair and equal for everybody. It's all about how I can better position myself for what I want to do type of thing. Like we're in a constant battle for most of our lives
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
positioning ourselves, competing against other men who in the same, around it, because we all believe the same thing. We got something to take care of. We got someone to provide for.
Yeah.
So if I got my stuff going on, I'm not always going to be looking to create a fair opportunity for you. I'm gonna try to get everything that I can get
Sure.
Yeah.
for me and mine.
Mhm.
So understanding and having to navigate that, and then, struggling with doing all you can, putting in all your energy to accomplish something and still not accomplishing it,
Mhm.
or still not hitting the goal. Giving your best effort to something and failing, that's difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you always not going to get the outcome. You spend your whole life doing something, try as hard as you can and fail.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
And you're expected to pick yourself back up and
expected to
try
pick yourself
again.
back up and try again and do and largely do those things. So I'm saying, like, those few things alone is enough to make somebody want to check up out of here.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about me, but just in general. Like, if I'm carrying all that around all the time, dealing with it on top of, if I did want to talk about it and nobody caring about it, that's enough to make me want to check up out of here.
Well, I think you have to find a pathway where you can find opportunities to express that and talk to somebody who does care about it, even if you're paying them to care about it, i.e., counseling, etc. So I think everybody should have a counselor. That's just my personal
100.
stance.
And they
So-
can't use podcasts just as their
That's
outlet.
not. Yeah, this is
That's,
not.
that's
yeah,
not the only outlet.
It may not work for all.
Now hold on, you feel kind of did you feel as though that was
It may
pointed
not
towards
work
you?
for, no,
I mean,
just
it
saying-
was, but I'm just saying.
I'm joking, but people be like, people need to put down the podcast and get a counselor or whatever. And sometimes,
You can do both.
I mean, two things can be true.
Yes.
Like, this is a lot. Like I said before, the podcast be healing for me.
Oh, I know.
That junk be healing. I be sometimes, because like, it's just about getting it out. Not necessarily that I
Yeah.
need to
That
talk
you
to
need a
counsel, but
response,
just
getting it out.
just putting it out there.
In a
Like
safe
what you was talking
space.
about. If I sit with my thoughts all the time and I don't get them out there, then the only thoughts I have to lean on are my own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't have no one to provide opposition and tell me I'm being dogmatic, or
Mhm.
tell me that, I need to clean myself up, or I'm an insecure bastard and all that type of stuff, like what Lace be doing.
Who said that you
Lace
was
did
insecure?
say that. Lace did.
He might have said you was insecure, but not a
I never
bastard.
said he was insecure.
I know
never
he
said that.
he
Yeah,
did
never
say that
said
though, but he was.
never
and,
said
then he
he.
said that there was something within me that I need to fix, and he used.
I was
like,
I was
pointing at-
speaking based on the scenario. I didn't say you.
But getting your thoughts out are really good because we need to get them out for a couple reasons. One, we can't hold them in, and two, we need to we need to see if they stick. And oftentimes talking with someone else, counselor, a good friend, whatever the case may be, it lets us know, hey, is this train of thinking that I'm going down, is this beneficial?
Right, right.
Does this make sense? What standard, based upon the standard that we have established for ourselves, based upon that standard that we have established, does this measure up to the standard? Because as of right now, I don't know.
Right. I dig it.
I don't think that there's anything wrong though. Sometimes with sitting in your thoughts though, I think that largely as men, we do, because we process differently. Like, we think first and then feel. I think that we should at times sit in our thoughts for a little while before we spit them out.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
And specifically acting on them too. But
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
legit. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we don't have to necessarily talk about everything out loud all the time. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, sometimes you do gotta sit with yourself and think about, should I be feeling this way? Do I really want to take this action? Do I really want to go in that direction? And if I've done that and then I've settled on something, then maybe I do need to talk about out loud just to get confirmation or whatever about what I'm feeling. But just rattling out everything that you feel all the time, I don't think that's going to be as productive as you
Mhm.
think it is either, because you're never going to address nothing. You're just going to be, when do you sit in it? When do you think about it? Because you ain't
Mhm.
doing nothing but, communicating it to, someone else, or just getting it out, in the atmosphere. So I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong
Yeah.
to a degree with sitting in your thoughts and internalizing sometimes. I think there just has to be a balance to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And not only internalizing, because some people only internalize, and that's what you talking about, imploding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
that was a good
That was what's the final thought, Mel?
Find you somebody that's gonna listen.
Find you somebody who's gonna listen.
Find you somebody that's gonna listen.
And don't rely on herbal treatments in order to be your way out.
Nah, I disagree with
Vices.
that. I disagree with that.
Vices. Don't. All right. Let me just say this. Then
Vices.
don't rely on vices as your way out.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Whatever those vices may be.
Correct. Correct.
That's another conversation. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother hour.
Yeah.
Because
Let's
my
go.
vice
We got
was,
vices.
Yeah,
my vice
let's go.
was.
We know. You told us.
You don't know what my vice was.
You told us plenty of times.
All right, y'all know.
I mean, you did tell us.
I know, but they don't know. But
Okay,
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying.
saying.
I'm just making sure no one else knows.
All good. Yeah. All good.
All right. We done?
We
That was
done.
moral. You asked me and then told it.
No, he
This has
said.
been
He said it.
Find somebody to go.
My
listen.
bad. I ain't mean to even do that.
I really didn't have a moral, so I was just
He said find you
find
someone.
somebody who listen.
Yes,
That was
and don't use
don't use
vices.
negative vices.
and don't use negative vices.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the Man of These podcast, y'all. And as always, until next time, we out.
Peace.